Here's another question. How do I organize a team practice?
Well, I get asked this question a lot, Mr. Cruz, especially from new second year, possibly third year coaches. Team practices are essential for everything that you do before the competition. The key thing is you have to progress your practices each day, especially after a competition, because you want to concentrate on things that your students were having issues with during that round. At the beginning of the season, when you have a whole bunch of new kids in there and some of your returning kids, the best thing you want to do is gather everybody together, explain the rules of Cyber Patriot, explain the ethics behind what you're doing, because kids automatically come into Cyber Patriot thinking they want to learn how to hack when that's not the case. And explain this to them. Here's what you're learning cyber defense. And then build a practice off that. So we want to cover that ethics part a lot, because they're going to see a lot of things. They're going to learn a lot of things during their duration on the team that they're teenagers are going to start exploring doing other things. So you want to, first couple practices, drill in a lot of lecturing. Here's what you're doing. Here's what you're covering. Then after that, you want to get into the technical bits. You want to break up your kids. Like, who wants to do Windows? Who wants to do Linux? Who wants to do Cisco? And bring in your mentors on this. And beforehand, if you have an overall topic that you want to talk about, say encryption, you want to gather them all together, because encryption's been playing a big role in the past few years in competitions, and talk about different types of encryption. Okay, here's what this set of encryption does. Here's a tool that you can use to decrypt certain information. And then after that, say halfway through the practice, break it off into their individual disciplines, Windows, Cisco, Linux, and let the technical mentors work with them. So they get a more in-depth knowledge for that operating system on how to deal with encryption. That's the best way to practice. You come in, you have an overall goal, or you want to talk about a topic as a group at first so they understand their mindset. And then after that, let the technical mentors take them to their separate sections, because that's what I do. I break them up into different teams and let them work with the mentors so they can get that specific in-depth knowledge that they need to compete.
So as with any team, you're always limited by time, being able to come together. How often what's the least you should be able to practice with your team?
The least amount, it would say once a week, maybe 2 hours. I meet with my teams twice a week, 90 minutes each time. So I have like 3 hours of practice with the students in person. A lot of this falls back on them, how hard they're going to study and prepare themselves for the competition as well. I know there's teams out there, they meet, they'll go off like after school and they'll talk about stuff prior to the competition, and their team captain or whoever's in charge of their team, their 5-6 person team, will kind of rally them together. Okay, here are some points that we missed. We got to make sure we hit this. And then me as the coach, before they split off into that, want to go over and reemphasize some of the points that, here's where you need to hit, here's where you need to study. And if you have any questions, contact me. If you have any questions, send an email, post something on one of the Facebook pages. If you have a teacher that's the coach and you as a technical mentor, have them contact the teacher to have them then contact the technical mentor to work out a solution to whatever problem you're having.
So this is just like any other classroom kind of instruction that you're actually giving them. Is there a typical homework that you would always give them to do, or is this just based on how well they did at their practice?
I always try to teach them something new, especially the new students. For networking, the biggest thing is subnetting an IP address range. Because they see that a lot the further they get into the competition for Cisco. Granted, they can go out and use a subnet calculator, that's fine, but the better they know how to do it on their own without the subnet calculator, the better it is for them to understand how things line up for networking. Because if they make it to nationals, and they might have changed it since Medina Valley went, they have to set everything up before they can connect to the internet, to the network. So they'll be given their IP range, they'll be given their addresses, but they have to break everything down. And they can't take cell phones into the competition area, and they have no internet connectivity until they connect up the network devices. So that's one of the things I try to hit on. You need to work on this specifically as a group, or if you're having problems with it, work on this. Here's something to work on. Here's a video link you should watch that'll explain it better if I'm not doing it for your understanding or for your knowledge. For Windows and Linux, there's lots of stuff for them to go over homework-wise. If they don't understand how to set up local policy for passwords, if they don't understand how to configure a firewall to make sure a firewall's turned on or downloaded, depending on Windows or Linux operating system, there's videos out there, there's books out there for them to grab, watch, read, if they print it off. So a lot of homework stuff is given out, especially if I'm seeing them lacking somewhere. I'll point it out to them and say, you need to work on this specifically. Make sure you understand this.
So one final part to this new technology that even you and I are using right now, this Zoom technology and other video conferencing technology, has become affordable and accessible to almost everybody now for limited durations. Would you use this as part of your, let's say, between hands-on session training?
Oh, so since this COVID-19 has broken out at the beginning of the year, the last 7 weeks of school, this is how I conducted practice with my students. I set up a Zoom or a Google Meetings session. I emailed them the invitation, and then we would talk about certain things that were going on. And then I would share out my screen, and we would go through a practice image that I have. I would have them walk me through what they wanted to do, or what, they would give me the instruction, I would do it on the image. And just to keep that knowledge going. But this has been a blessing and a curse at the same time.
I can imagine.
Yes.
But all in all, it appears to be a positive.
Yes. Because I'm still able to interact with the students. I'm able to see them. It's better to see someone on video like this than it is to talk to them on the phone. And then I have the capability to share resources I find with them at the time through this video session.
But it's not a substitute for being there as they watch the reaction as they're going through the practice image and they're making mistakes. It's not a replacement for that. Is that correct?
Correct. It's better for them to get their hands on. So if it's one of the practice images that I have that I've downloaded from a website somewhere, I will try to make it accessible for them to download so they have it there. And then we walk through it together. They tell me what they're doing, and I try to replicate it so everybody else can see if they don't have the image.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Frank.
You're welcome.